So death. Death is one among a few ultimate categories. Life is another one, perhaps. Um, there are more, but death is the one that I wanted to focus on in this particular video because, for whatever reason, I've been thinking about it today, and the reason could be that I'm studying Buddhism again, revisiting it. I mean, it's always been present in the background, at least for the last few years, but I'm revisiting it with as much intensity as I gave it when I first discovered it back when I was in college. And um, death and suffering, really, which death is kind of um, that yawning chasm that we're always already falling into. And it's this falling towards death that really is represented by suffering. Suffering is just an intimation of the inevitable fact of our dying at some point. And first, I wanted to read a poem um, by Rainier Maria Rilke called, or it doesn't have a name actually. It's from the book of A Monastic Life, published in the Book of Hours. Uh, and it's translated by Anita Barrows and Joanna Macy. It reads, I cannot believe that little death, whom we busily ignore, remains for us a sorrow and a need. I cannot believe he is that menacing. I'm still alive. I have time to build. My blood will outlast the rose. My knowing is deeper than the teasing way he likes to toy with our fear. I am the world he stumbled out of. Yet each time the slow procession passes, we're afraid to look. We don't know. Is it the same as before? Is it 2 now, or 10, or 1,000, more? We only know the cold waxen hand, so naked and near, could be our own. So we do whatever we possibly can to ignore death, or at least that's sort of the common sense of our age. We don't want to pay attention to death because it's too negative. It's too, well, we could say it's too self-absorbed. But then at the same time, I mean, to worry about death is not necessarily to only worry about your own death. You could be worried about the death of your loved ones, but then still, they're your loved ones. You care about them because they have some relation to you, so it still is sort of a self-indulgent care or worry to be constantly troubled by your own death. Um, and, this is, I think, a legitimate criticism, the level against the constant contemplation of death, but if you do contemplate it for a moment, how do you escape the fact that you die alone? That, if you've been alive for the death of a relative or a loved one or friend, you have to face this bizarre situation where this person you knew is all of a sudden gone. And you can even see their body there laying in the casket, and still they're gone. That's not them. It's a waxen image. And somehow this, it's like a cognitive dissonance that's created, clues you into the fact that whoever they were, you never knew them. Because they don't exist. Unless, of course, you're religious or spiritual in some way and imagine that they are carrying on, their personality is carrying on after the death of their body as, whatever ghostly form. unless you believe that, and maybe people do channel these voices from beyond the grave. I doubt it, but I don't know. But let's say that that doesn't happen, then somehow our personalities are merely uh, temporary images that exist for a time and then pass away. And certainly they have an influence while they exist on other personalities, which similarly will pass away. What's interesting, though, is that somehow our culture, all of these personalities throughout thousands of years of human history, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, all these personalities have added up to this very sophisticated, inherited system of knowledge and understanding, and language, and culture. And so somehow death leaves this memory behind it, and every generation gains a little bit deeper of an understanding from the generation prior that's been communicated between souls. So while we may die alone, somehow while we live, we share our existence with others, and what we come up with, the insights that we gain, can be passed on to those who follow us. So somehow we are immortal at this cultural level, but then at a biological level, we're mortal. We die. We, as individually experiencing centers of agency and awareness, we are born, we come to be, and then we pass away, and we disappear again. So, going back to Buddhism, I think what the Buddha is saying is that your personality is an aggregate of the conditions that you were faced with in your past. It's a piling up of all these memories, these karmic inheritances, and in and of itself is empty of any enduring form. It's a reflection, an infinite reflection of its surroundings, which the surroundings are also an infinite reflection of it. Neither one itself as the subject or the world its surrounding as an object has its own inherent and enduring existence separate from the other. They both arise together. And so we as individuals, our personal form is merely a temporary flowering to pass a seed along into the future. But see, that's the thing. We as individuals have a say in how our karma unfolds. While we're alive, we can express ourselves, and certainly many of us remain incapable of expression or unwilling to express because we're too afraid. We're sort of unconscious of the fact that we're going to die, which is why I don't really think contemplating death seriously, preparing for death seriously before you die, should be criticized, because it is self-indulgent only in the sense that it's looking within to that, most transcendental element of your experience, which is your realization that you didn't exist before you were born, and you won't exist after you die. That whatever your personality is a limited mirage of some sort. Though not now, while you're alive, it's not a mirage, because you can actually change the future. But after it ends, you see there's nothing to hold on to. Your life is a gift to everything that comes after you, and there's nothing you can do about that. You can hate the fact that you don't get anything in return, or you could give yourself willingly, because you recognize that any you thought existed separate was an illusion.